Hello, Falcon. Okay. The fun topic. American patriotism. Why it is just exportation of British patriotism. And I have my sound on the fucking stream thing I'm watching. There we go. Fucking hell. Alright. I know what I'm doing. Why American patriotism is just exported British patriotism. I mean, we got to start with the more obvious side of things. Why is British patriotism wrong? Because everyone seems to be struggling to get why American patriotism is wrong, which fuck me. Got to be a few pages back on that one. But why don't we get into the fun topic as to what America is born from is also wrong? Britain. I mean, some of you people may think it's just this like unified nation of countries and all of it's shit that happened horribly 800 years ago. The Troubles was just a difference. No, 800 years, longer than that, technically speaking, because you have into the late Roman period with the Anglo settling. But, you know, as rough as combat has been, since about 700 AD, which is around the era of that is predicted that King Arthur existed. It was a Celtic Breton king. Um, anyway, he's one of the biggest sort of envisionment of struggle against Angloism throughout the ages, and there's been a folklore guy in history for a long time. But British patriotism, it forms out of the forged relationship between the Scottish and the Anglo aristocracy to colonize and genocide Celtic culture and Celtic people. They obliterated the Bretons of England, obliterated them. I mean, what's it? Half my family come from fucking Liverpool, and half of them come from Ireland, and my Liverpool side of my family, and my other half of my family come from Yorkshire, Lancashire, and Cumbria, and a lot of my family actually have ties to Breton heritage, but they've got no culture. The culture's gone. It's dead. Dead. Like, there's nothing I can preach about. There's nothing I can say, oh, I've got this, that, and the other for it. No, I am got Anglo culture. My culture that would have come from my people, gone. I'm never going to be able to be properly in touch with it. I'll only be someone trying to understand something that I was not able to learn in my young years. I'm going to be trying to commit to something that I've been disconnected from. You know, being able to tie myself better into my Celtic culture is going to be great, and I'm trying to do that. I'm hoping to learn into languages, learn history, and learn more and more. But it's a large project for the future that I'm disconnected from and isolated from, and it's one of them things. And I am one person of millions in this country who have got that heritage and know nothing of it. Not just know nothing of the fact that they are of that descendant. They know nothing about the culture either. It's disconnected from it. It's disjointed. It's not important, and that's the success of British nationalism. British, if you can even call it nationalism. I mean, British colonialism. Um, the English upper class and the Scottish upper class turned around and decided that Anglo supremacy was the way to go. I know that sounds weird because you'd be like, well, the Scots are Gaelic. They are, but you got to understand that the demographic issues regards to class society. The Scots that ended up siding with the Anglos, whereas so anti-Anglo infrared is unknowingly pushing Anglo patriotism. Yes, you are absolutely right, Specky V. Absolutely right. Um, I mean, but like you know, the Anglo colonialism, they when they joined forces and started colonizing the region, they were extremely brutal. Uh, I think it's like 1100 or 1000. There was fucking nasty massacres of Breton people in England. You won't see anything in England so much past 1250 because by 1250 the Cumbric language, which was one of the biggest of the Breton languages, was obliterated, which is the language that my father's side of the family would have spoken 1,000 years ago. And since 1250, it's been dead other than in Yorkshire dialect. Like my family come from Yorkshire. The Yorkshire dialect still holds, and it's not slang. Anyone who calls it fucking slang is an offensive fucking piece of shit. It's a dialect, and it's the dialect of English that a lot of modern English is based off. So if people want to start shit talking the way Yorkshire people talk, they can fuck off. The way they talk is a part of a dialect of English that doesn't exist in a lot of places anymore, and even a lot of places of Yorkshire. And it's one of the few dialects of English that still uphold a lot of the Celtic ways of speaking. That and road signs. Otherwise, Cumbric is dead, absolutely dead. And that is the complete obliteration of what this type of patriotism achieved, what this type of country achieves. Look what they did to Wales. Wales obliterated. No one talks about the struggle of Wales. Everyone goes on about fucking everyone else in the UK. No one talks about Wales. I don't even know the full ins and outs, but Wales struggled and struggled for their freedom and were met with fucking Teutonic force. Just as Ireland was, Wales was not seen as a nation. People need to remember this relationship. England and Scotland saw themselves as sovereign countries with a sovereign crown. That's why it's called the joint crown of England and Scotland, which wasn't the original plan of the UK. It was originally a joint crown system, but that changed. I'm not going to go into the details on that because I'm not a historian. But the Wales and on top of that Ireland, and Northern Ireland today is still treated like this, are not seen as nations. They are known as provinces of England, not even Britain, of England. Wales, up until when did they change? I think it was either during the 1900s or it was actually up until Blair's devolution of power. I can't remember. Up until then, Wales was not a nation. Wales was a province of England. It was part of our territory, and you can see that with how heavily colonized Wales is. You compare Wales to Scotland or Ireland, and it's fucking heavily colonized by English people. There are lots of places in Wales where you can't see a Welshman for miles. And when you do find the Welsh people, they're in rundown fucking cities that are disrespected. And then you have places like their capital city of Cardiff, which is obviously a fucking centre for Anglo dominance within the region. The reason why you have these big cities built in these territories, like fucking Dublin, Belfast, fucking Ireland, and stuff like that, when they're fucking conquering these places, when Britain comes and Roman comes, and all these places that they build these concentrated cities, these big places, which people like to point at as like, wow, well, these people are doing well, they got these nice fucking cities. They are controlled points of dominance. They are so that that nation can therefore have an easier point of dominance, access, and trade within that nation, and therefore guarantee that their settlers, their colonies can have a greater point on it. It's without a H. Wales is not spelt with a H. The English in Wales are buying areas for summer homes. They do indeed. They do a lot of like that. I mean, my mate's dad, who's not even fucking bourgeois, he's proletariat. He's been a truck driver all his life. Rented out a caravan down there. I mean, it's typical for a lot of working class people at the end of their life. They'll go and they'll get a caravan down in Wales. What phone? Would you make me fucking spell check for? But no, these things are what build up British patriotism. And that build up reaches up towards the modern day where we have this thing where everyone wants to preach about British patriotism, this, that, and the other. The patriotism in the first world is a fucking meme because we're imperialists. What's our patriotism other than to crush and destroy? Like, if you're going to preach patriotism as well, I mean, for a British context, it would be okay. England is a nation, Scotland is a nation, Ireland is a nation, Wales is a nation. They have their own different things, their own different needs, their own necessities, their own peoples that need their own different struggles. So that patriotism cannot be solely British because of the colonial structure that which we have, the oppression we put on these people, and the fact that the British culture is mostly English and Scottish culture, if not entirely. Like, and the essentially by saying that we should all be together as British patriotism is saying we should all be together as Anglo patriotism. That is insanely bollocks, and insanely bollocks to this day. And any communist party in the UK that is pushing that they're going to have British patriotism for the revolution, you are a laugh. Ha ha ha, joke. Like, genuinely, piss off if you're going to tell me that British patriotism is how we're going to move forward. Because I think the rod in your ass is so far up, it's touching the fucking top of your skull. Genuinely. And This is where we pop onto the Americans, because America has all of that context and history to it to build up its patriotic system, and not just that, the French influence too, which I will try and get in a bit. That's a bit more difficult to talk about because I ain't French. Nice to have a Frenchman to talk about it, but the U.S. patriotism is a combination of British and French patriotism. Mostly British, but it has a lot of involvement with the French during the fucking what's it the bourgeois the bourgeois renaissance of the fucking 1700s 1800s, where the French and the Americans were licking each other as ass and fucking using suppositories of their own culture with each other. America and France had a weird relationship in the 1800s. Let's just put it like that way. But I want to focus on the British issues in this because the British issues are mainly the things that escalate into what's wrong about the American colonial structure. And that's what Britain instilled in regards to the way in which they handled natives. The slave trade, which was started by the Spanish, was mostly expanded by the British. And the 13 colonies, which was a British colonial project. This settler system is shrouded and based in that Anglo dominant culture, that need for the Anglo and European peoples of the Western European region to dominate over anyone and everyone in their way. Exceptionalism of the Anglo people. So combining what I've just gone on about with British patriotism with the US's patriotism of history and slavery and fucking genocide, and this is, we're not even, mind you, we're not even getting into the global stuff yet. That'll be something at the end. I'm just going on about internal matters. I'm being nice here by only going on about internal matters. Because globally, there's a reason to say that that flag should not exist anymore. That nation should not exist anymore. But I am sticking to the core issues. So anyone who's got a problem with that, maybe you should look even to the wider issues and have even more of a problem. Because this is not making sense to reality, because the internal problems are enough to shake your foundation of shit. I literally just had to say that the US was forged out of slavery and genocide, and this conversation could be fucking over. Like, that's how pathetic it is that I'm seeing people fucking defending the American flag, people defending the America as a fucking nation, patriotism of America as a nation. You are fascists. Nothing else for you. You want to defend the colonial superstructure of a fucking fascist fucking settler state. Go for it. Go for it, because you're not our allies. You are our enemies. No, it's just only white people and not all white people. Yeah, okay, as my mates put into the chat, like as Peter Griffin once said, quote, rights for everyone except blacks, Asians, Muslims, Arabs, or natives. Only white people, and not all white people, like Jews, Italians, Irish, like only whites, not even whites. No rights for anyone. You guys are on fire in the chats. But I mean, it's like you combine all these relationships together, and it's like, what are these people actually asking for? And it's like, do you know what? Patriotism aside, let's even throw patriotism aside and be even nicer to them. Just the fucking flag. How? How can you defend the British flag, which is a flag that represents assimilation? It represents the assimilation of the people into the Anglo order. The English flag dominates. The Scottish flag, it resides underneath in still a dominant position. Wales basically has no representation on it, and then they put a red cross through it for fucking. It's just, for the sides, like the fucking the sorry, a red X through it. The flag is representative of that order. America is a flag that is based off the Union Jack. It's why it's red, white, and blue. It is based off the Union Jack, drawn up by people who come from fucking England. It's a flag they designed for their white state. They did not rebel with that flag for fucking freedom from colonialism. They rebelled with that flag because the British Empire was slowly but surely bringing an end to its slave trade. And America, a member of the British Empire, did not want an end to their slave trade. British Empire, which was still genocidal in their relationship with the natives. Don't think that what I'm saying downplays their fucking hatred for them. I'm not. But the British Empire was trying to do what they did to India with the natives. They were trying to build up treaties, build up relationships, and dominate them. The US people were more interested in wiping them out and replacing them. Like, the US managed to be worse. How? How do you manage to be worse than the British? I'm sure Haz would be confused at that because he seems to think that Americanism and Britain is just completely disconnected and that somehow fucking dare the fucking lights of thunder strike fucking the world backwards. That the American patriotism is somehow better than British patriotism. How? How? When you already have the history, you already have the racism, not just towards other people who perceivably white on the Celtic region, but the racism towards fucking black people, brown people, red people, everyone all over. This is a nation of dominance. And then the US goes, hold my fucking beer, because I ain't even going to try and develop something useful out of this nation of peoples that we've invaded. We're just going to make them extinct. They made the British oppression of them so fucking trivial to some of these people that there were African slaves that sided with the British in the civil war, the Revolutionary War in America, because Britain guaranteed their freedom. That is not them saying Britain was better to them. That is them seeing that America was going to be even worse, because there's no such thing as lesser evils. There is just worse shit. You're in worse shit. Evil is fucking evil. That is the way it's batted out. Britain and America just as fucking bad as each other, except America manages to be worse. And then when you put that into the future, what the fuck has changed about these conditions other than the fact that it's not so fucking blatant that you don't see it every second of every fucking day like they did in the 1800s? What is the fucking main difference here? They've reorganized society to be comfortable for the Americans so they can hide in their middle class houses away from the fact that black people are getting shot like mad and get shot more in the north by police than they do in the south by police. That, mind you, Jim Crow is in the south, which is one of the most racist, if not the most racist things to exist in America. Jim Crow. Yet black people still manage to get shot so much more in the north. What the fuck is going on there? And I might be wrong. If an African American says I'm wrong, prove me wrong and tell everyone that I am wrong, because it's not my issues and I am just trying to parrot what I've been told by you guys. But if I'm wrong, fucking have at me, because it's not my issues and I'm all the way over in Britain. But you know, why are they able to ignore this? Native Americans is even fucking worse, because I mean, the robbing of children never stopped in Canada and likely never stopped in America too. I know more about the Canadian situation on that one than the American one. But they still get shot at by police and treated like shit. Their communities are driven off by either Fed or fascists, and a lot of the time attacked with people bearing assault arms. They are in struggles like the Arizonan struggle, where you got fucking strong native organizations like PSFM holding the motherfucking torch for struggle there and helping out, along with anarchists who are holding the motherfucking torch for struggle, and Maoists, MLMA, who are holding the motherfucking torch for struggle. And these people are going to turn around and say all of those black and red people I'm quoting fucking Haz here, are just importing British leftism when they say the US is a fascist colonial state. Any patriotism for it is fascistic, and any support for their goddamn dirty flag is fucking disgusting. Yeah, the Demarchists are, or PSFM are Demarchist. So is Bundes. PSFM are the reason Demarchism survived. No thanks to that one, bad boy. But I mean, you know, we're in an era where imperialism is in a titchy point. The US is no longer holding its hegemony of power. It only has a hegemony on the military. Its capital owning and capital income is now lower than China. Its trade monopoly is now lower than both China and the European Union, who came joint top of trade last year, along with China being top of capital. What's it? What's the term they use? Just increasing capital over the year period. I don't know how to put it into language. It's all bourgeois crap. Fucking knobs. But we can separate this into just the flags. The flags are based off these situations, and they scourge the hell to these people. You go to the south of Ireland. I fucking dare you. Any of these people who think American patriotism is cool, go to the southmost point. The Irish people go deep in their villages, go run in there and drag a fucking British flag around there, and see what happens to your fucking face as it gets smacked into the floor and stomped on a curb. You would not get away with wearing that flag around in Ireland, just like you wouldn't get away with waving that flag in the native or the African American communities. So fucking suck ass, you dirty little twats. Genuinely, dirty little twats. This is disgusting shit. The fact that we're having to deal with essentially white supremacy calling itself Marxism. Like, genuinely. This is where we need to fucking grow up in the whole situation and no longer retain people based on what they fucking say for themselves as them being, quote, Marxists. Because this has been the biggest downfall of all the dickheads that are supposedly helping us out in this community that I've seen my whole time of being involved with these fucking merry band of fucking dickheads, is that everyone wants to just give people benefit of the doubt. Seriously, fucking don't, man. Every Irishman challenges has to a cage match. It would be, if anything, it'd be a standard brawl. They like a more standard brawl. No weapons, no arms, no nothing. Fists only, and he'll get taken down in one punch. Irish fighting culture, which isn't like there is a racist thing that's thrown about Irish people on this, but there is an actual culture that comes about the way they deal with things, which is just typically proletarian culture, is the way I look at it, because a lot of proletarian people share this culture. And it's about the respectful fights. Like, you don't fight like a dickhead. You fight with respect and you fight with honor. And that's what they'll give you. You disrespect them, they'll fucking set you up to be in a fight where you can fight them. They ain't just gonna fucking crush you. But it's because the Irish people are better than us, better than a lot of us when it comes to Europe. Like they're the only nation that can manage to be like imperialized into a fucking a tax haven and still turn around and say harsh positions on shit. Like they'll turn around and stand up for Palestine. I know it's only I know it's not much because of the way that they're in the EU and the other stuff like that. But do you hear the other countries going on about it? No, because it takes the heart of people who've been in the struggle, like the Irish have, the Irish struggle, to fucking see this shit and not be able to say meh. Especially with Ireland's relation to the Palestinian people. They've had such good relationships with the Palestinian people over the centuries. I mean, there was Syrian at the time when the relationships first built up, but things have gone down, and the Irish have witnessed the British do to the Palestinians what the British were doing to them. Actually, the British have done it even more hardcore with the Palestinians. The British did to the Palestinians in fucking decades what they did to the Irish in centuries. And everyone wants to just go on about Israel and America's relationship. Israel is a British creation, not an American one. America just tied the ribbon at the end. We sold it to them just before Israel was formed. 1945, we sold Palestine to America to pay off some of our debts. And, you look around the globe, apartheid states, America included, because America was an apartheid state, it still technically is. Let's go for this. America can be named as well. If you were going to name 3 or 4 apartheid nations in the world, what are the first ones that come to mind? I'm thinking of 3. America, South Africa, Israel, Rhodesia. Britain, and fucking Britain. All involved, always about. This wise big fucking empire that everyone goes on about being a civilizer went and destroyed the world, bland them about. For what? For diamonds, for gold, for fucking minerals, for coal, for slaves and labor. They crush the world with an iron fist, and America do the same. And patriotism is a pride in that. And where's this patriotism even coming from? Because America now has lost its hegemony, like I was going on about earlier, and I lost my point, and I found it again. So people like us and all that, they're aristocrats. Now, when an empire starts to lose, does anyone know what happens to the aristocracy? They motherfucking shrink. They shrink. Why are they gonna be against that? Well, I mean, we don't even need to say that because you just hear the labor aristocracy. What's the thing they say 3 times, 4 times a fucking day? Labor aristocracy, they're terrified of losing their class position and they want to gain more power anyway because of the way their bourgeois culture influences on their capacity to function. So when everything starts burning down around them, they lose their shit and start supporting the system because they're afraid they're going to become like me or like my mate Dark Sinovia or a British channel who are lumpen. They're afraid they're going to be like some fucking bum ass scavs because that's what they think we are. We're just some bum ass scavs. And they're afraid they're going to be as poor as that. They're afraid they're going to be as arsehole as that. They're afraid that it's going to make them stupid if they're poor. They think we are just the masses, as in like this big plump ball of mindless shit. And we are the people. And the only people that are the people are the people that are outside of bourgeois culture and those that are trying to be treacherous towards it. Because the only people I see that are really people in the aristocracy are those being class traitors, those going against it. Because those motherfucking people are struggling with shit that they stuck with could just better benefit themselves. They are struggling against that because they're one of the few people in their class that actually have a heart that it extends to more than just themselves. That is what makes a class traitor, having a heart that extends to more than just oneself. Against individualism, the destruction of individualism is the way forward of this. These people, though, that don't go against that, they dive straight into the patriotism. They went from, we didn't need to talk about the US flag to fucking, as soon as Donald Trump's presidency's gone on and the whole world now knows that the US is a fucking weak joke compared to what it was 10 years ago, that they're now having to go and wave as much as possible and go on about how we need to protect American patriotism because they want to protect America, but they know saying just protect America will lose all their subscribers. They have to still pretend to be the big waving flag victim of fucking revolution. So they stick a cog and a fucking uh, a, a cog and a hammer on there, which I find is another show of their utter ignorance of agriculture. I'm sorry, the whole point of a hammer and a sickle is that to live, you need functional industry that can produce the needs from a mechanical standpoint, and functional agriculture that can produce your food and material production that comes from agricultural production. From that standpoint, you're never going to not have a sickle in the hammer and sickle. It's not out of date. It's not supposed to be just representing the working class and the peasantry. It's supposed to be representing the two sides of the proletariat, you fucking dingleberry stews. The working class of fucking industry and the working class of fucking agriculture. Because everyone in society will be involved in that in communism. No one's going to just be solely intellectual, solely industrial, or solely agricultural. Are you fucking mad? Because everyone is going to be intellectual. And then whatever work point they take on top of that would be whatever they fall in on top of that. Everyone is going to be an intellectual because everyone can be. And the most intellectual people of the struggle come from the lumpen. Why do we see that? Because lumpen people, especially the third and fourth world people of the lumpen, who are fucking struggling in this, are against the US flag, against the British flag, against the colonial structures of this. The people that call out the fact that the French still own all their holdings and still abuse the world violently and the most are coming from black and red and brown voices, are coming from lumpen voices, not aristocratic ones. The fact that Britain is trying to reconstruct itself, the fact that Britain still holds the Commonwealth as its stepping stone for its empires grab back, is not being preached from the mouths of aristocrats. It comes from the lumpen. The fact that America is a fascist, settler, colonial state is not coming from the mouths of the aristocracy. It's coming from the mouths of the lumpen. Universities, we do promote narcissism just in the way that just not in the way conservatives think. Yeah, what are you sure it's not during the communism? And I mean, what's it? Over here we burn them. That's my little. For those who haven't seen the stream, and you better fucking see it. That's my Lebanese comrade. He's a fucking legend and absolutely right. Over here, over there, they burn them. Over everywhere, they burn them across the globe. And you know, the flags should be burnt. That's the way it should be done. American ones, Israeli ones. We got them all. American ones, British ones, French ones. What you want to buy? You want to burn? No, like right on it. It's the absolute way forward. The flags are only good for anything but burning. Uh, the but I mean, look at where it all comes from. And absolutely right. It promotes this like zealic narcissism of the United States as this like bubble that the world is just not like. Oh, the world is just not like this. I always hear this from people, even really good comrades. That's why I don't mean this entirely insultive when I put this point out there. The exceptionalism is so ingrained in us that even good comrades are caught up by it, and they will be caught in this position where they think that the horrible shit that's happening against them in America is solely unique to America, rather than looking at there's unique conditions on top of America, but America itself on a cultural basis is not unique from Europeanism. And it's not unique from colonialism itself, which isn't just a European concept, it's a global concept. American flag is just plain ugly. That alone is just enough to just justify burning it. Yeah, do you know what? Fucking why haven't I even raised this point yet? Because I fucking hate the look of it too. It is horrible. Don't have that much white on a flag if you're gonna put that many stripes on it too. Like it just no. It looks like it looks like someone fucking washed their navy uniform with fucking pink socks or something, but rather than staining the white, it stained the blue. I'm on about the striped naval shirts with the blue stripes. Um, it like don't make a flag with fucking shit tons of stars on it either. It just makes you look like a pretentious dickhead. One star is enough. Maybe with a hammer and sickle next to it. Russian uniforms. Yes, the Russian ones. You are right. Um, but no, like the American flag. Like I had an American say this once. He was like, at least the British flag could be like argued to say it looks good. Like I don't agree with that, but I mean, he said at least it could be argued if you were to ignore everything, which is a stupid idea. It could be argued that it looks good. American flag doesn't even have the looks to it. It's this ugly, horrible flag that, just like the British flag, is hated around the world more than it's loved. Why would you want to hold on to that? The people of the world fucking hate it more than anyone. The third world, because like I said at the end, I was going to scoop into this. What about the third world? Do these people not consider what the third world fucking thinks about these flags? What the third world has had to be through because of these flags? Jesus Christ! Fucking the fucking they're willing to stamp over the fucking heads of 800 years of oppression of the Irish, and they're even more willing to stamp over fucking what's it the how long is feudal colonialism messing with the other world as well? Because I mean, we can go for the 300 years of capitalism. I mean, it's what 600, but like 500 years of capitalism because it started its development as a. I know its revolution was in the 1600s, but it started its actual in-house economic development and privatization efforts in the 1500s under King Henry VIII. It's the reason of Protestantism. Privatize the priories. You no longer need to have monks. You can make the monks work the priories. Um, they're all thrown out on their asses as well. People who had nowhere to live. It's very capitalistic of them. But there's 400 to 600 years of us messing in the fucking in the Fertile Crescent, the African regions, the fucking the Asian regions, the American supercontinent, all those places. Like what? Like we're gonna stumble over the heads of the people that suffered in those times, stumble over it. But altogether, if we were to combine these over the top in a layer, that's a millennia of shit we're denying. If we're to apply them next to each other, that's nearly 2 millennia of shit we're fucking we're denying it. Well, sorry, nearly 1.5 millennia of shit we're denying there. What the what the actual fuck? We're just going to deny all that. We were like, yeah, we're going to wave our flag because we like our flag. It represents our culture. What do you mean our culture? What is your culture? What is your culture that leads you to represent that flag? What is tying you down to it? Because I guarantee it's not proletarian, it's not revolutionary, and it's not anti-Americanism. It's fucking everything the opposite to what I just said. Because there's no reason to be tied down to a flag that has tortured the third world, tortured the first world, tortured the second world in its own outrights. Because in the first world, it tortured the fourth world, and then the lumpen, when they made the lumpen proletariat, they've tortured the disabled. The fucking second world, they've tortured all those people all over again, and then on top of that, they've caused the second world to be in a position where it's just a labor exporter for the first world, and especially on the side front of brain drain. We got the third world where we brain drain them anyway with our sanctions, and then we bomb them to cause refugees so we can get cheap workers. I guarantee you, the next thing we're going to do, because we've got fucking shit tons of both foreign and national lumpen people who have been dragged over here or forced down into that class by the what was it that we were calling our economic plan when we were fucking starts with an A, doesn't it? I can't remember. We had an economic plan post 2008 that started with an A, and I cannot remember for it. But I guarantee you, we're going to bring industry back and make it cheap labor and force all these people that are on their fucking ass into cheap labor because of what has been created by the destruction of social democracy within these nations, and not so much about it being caused by that, but that's what's unleashed the veil. The lumpen proletariat existed throughout the Cold War and were ignored, but now they're much bigger than they were then. They've grown because of negligence of this class. No, not the third way. It's a specific economic policy starting with an A, not a T. I had it then and it fell out my head. Fucking brain fog. Fucking hate my disability. Anyway, this is a global issue, and anyone that wants to separate from a global issue is ignoring the globalistic elements of capitalism. They're ignoring the fact that the British Empire was a global empire. The American Empire is a global empire. The coming fucking empire of whatever comes next, whether it be the EU, whether it be China, whether it be Britain, who tries to rise up as an imperialist power in the depths of the US empire, are going to be global. I mean, these powers already are, but they're going to be more global than they ever were before, to a point where I think the bourgeoisie that turned around and said, because there was bourgeois economists that turned around and said that they don't think that the capitalism can exist past 2050. I think they honestly believe that. I honestly, and do you know what? I think that that's a fucking logical thing to come to, because they're at a point where they're already going to start World War III, the war that's likely going to fucking be the end of all wars for capitalism, because they ain't going to survive it. World War III will create revolutionary struggle across the globe like they have never fucking seen. And I hope they go for it, because try and see American patriotism survive a world war now. Like, see how strong their patriotism is. And you know what? I got a message to the people that think America can't spawn an army for their patriotism. Why are all the Marxists preaching patriotism of America? And what are they going to do in that achievement of that? Where are they going to go with that? How's that going to deteriorate? Because they might be saying that they're all for China and against America now, but what are they going to do when they start losing loads of people and there's a big war going on and their patriotism is tied between their socialism with American characteristics and whatever the fuck they're getting tied to with whatever where China is? They are caught in a fucking shitstorm here, because their patriotism cannot survive this. America cannot win this world war. It is going to be America trying to keep up with China, Europe, and Britain vying for power, whilst Russia joins China, because America had the chance to join with Russia, but during the Trump era, and they trashed that for their Russiagate sham, which actually, funnily enough, wasn't started by the Democrats. The Russiagate shit was started by Britain. The British government funded a bot organization to flood America with anti-Russian propaganda, and the Russian bots shit was started by Britain, not America. 2014, actually. It was even before Trump was elected or even going to be running for office. So there's something to be considered about that. Why is Britain wanting to stop America's relationship with Russia? Well, I'll give you a fucking idea. America siding with Russia would have given at least 10 years onto that empire's life, would have helped it survive. Britain on the mind that so Russia, they're not going to side with anyone else other than China at this point now. Maybe the European Union. But America, they've burnt that bridge. And Britain was at the start of it. I don't see American patriotism being able to survive this war, especially now that they haven't got the capacity to have Russia as an ally. Russia as an ally would have been a massive save for the American empire for now. Wouldn't have been a save for it forever. It would have been like the situation with the British, where they managed to hold off until the 70s with their empire, but they had collapsed in the 20s. They don't have that in the window hole because of Britain does not go. Sorry, America doesn't get to have Russia in the same way that Britain had the relationship with America. America is being dropped on its ass, and dang, I'll be helpful for it. And Britain was at the start of that. So American patriotism now is in a position where it can't survive. We then roll over British patriotism. What the fuck is that going to lead to? And is that going to be able to survive? I fucking doubt that'll be able to survive. But the thing that's scarier about British patriotism over American patriotism is the openness about the empire in Britain. Not what we've done, but about its existence. There is a mass amount of people you can find in this country that would actively support the empire, especially the aristocracy, and see it as a civilizing force of the world. America sees what it does as a civilizing force of the world, but the difference is the majority of American people don't think you're an empire. They think you're anti-empire because of what you did with the British. They actually believe that. That's the scariest thing about British patriotism. And you're seeing it in these Marxists, American patriotism, and you're seeing it in these Marxists that are tooting it. They're turning around and telling people that the 1776 American Revolution was anti-imperialist. That is what they're parroting to people. What did 1776 create? What was that anti-imperialist in any way, shape, or form? What was it anti-colonialist in any way, shape, or form? When the next thing they do is the fucking Manifest Destiny. Manifest Destiny is the ground basis of Americanism. When you see fascism rise and commit to Americanism, Manifest Destiny is the most important fracture it's taking away from Americanism. What does that equate to in any form of logic? Does not equate to anti-imperialism. It equates to the development of a bourgeois country that ended up becoming one of the most powerful on the planet. But Britain, that supported the empire, means that if someone like Boris was to start tooting towards that rhetoric, he could get ground support. He'd get a lot more angered support off the heavy left wing types. He's going to get more ground support of those people that still have this not just positive view of the empire, but this view of, oh, we used to be great, we did, and now we're nothing view. Because a lot of that view is instilled in that we need the empire back logic. And that is the imbuing force of this types of patriotism. Americanism is only an expansion of that. It uses a neoliberal order of things to cover up its imperial nature, even though it used to be so levelingly honest about it when it had the Department of War. It used to brag about how they would be taking nations. They bragged when they took the Spanish Empire on. They bragged when they took the Philippines, when they took Cuba, when they dominated over Mexico, when they dominated the banana republics. They bragged. They didn't say, "Oh, we're aiding them and making them like we're helping them with their problems and trying to bring them democracy." No, they bragged that they'd taken it away from them. And that patriotism, the patriotism that existed for that form of Americanism is still imbued within the patriotism that exists for this Americanism. The bragging of American of American culture as a freeing culture as this special culture that brings people above the ground. And I mean, they praise that China as a bourgeois nation has taken on a mix of Victorian humanism and American exceptionalism. They they see that as a bragging point. They think it's not like, I mean, not only does it just seem weirdly racist to turn around and say, okay, America and its socialist platform is just going to have English and Chinese written everywhere. Uh, 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 I'm I'm confused. Like, unless it's like a specific area where that suits those types of demographics and you're helping out, why? Why is, like, if you're going to stick two languages anywhere, how about just stick to a native language everywhere? There you go, fucking deal with it. Like, you're gonna be like funny Mr. Culture people, and we're like, yeah, well, Americanism is gonna be this like ultimately Chinese element. And it's, mind you, when they say Chinese, they don't mean Uyghur people, they don't mean fucking the people of Shangxi, they don't mean people like that. They mean Han people. They don't. No, they don't mean the Mongolian peoples within China or anyone like that. They mean Han peoples. They mean Han culture. China is not a country of one unified. I mean, no culture is just this one entire homogeneous block. But they're not like, let's say, Islam, where it has this united culture across this board. China is several drastically different cultures in this nation. You've got Islamic culture, Christian culture, fucking what's it? Uh, the Buddhist culture and etc. I know I'm going from a point of religiosity, but religiosity is important for culture, and I don't know the names of all the different ethnicities of China, and I'd feel that um, I'd feel that I'd end up offending people if I attempt. My view, and I don't want to offend anyone. I want to keep a board of respect. My view is that humanism is intentionally vague so that liberals can justify anything while maintaining the moral high ground. Essentially, humanism is so Victorian humanism was based off the idea of justifying colonialism. It's where the whole we're civilizing people rhetoric comes from. Basically, it's find a way to justify colonialism whilst having because they this was before neocolonialism was developed, so everything was blatant. You knew about it. I mean, Battle of the Algiers goes on about this and how everyone was just blatantly aware. I mean, people are still aware of it now. It's just that modern humanism is not just vague; it's post-truth. It's postmodern. It uses a form of rhetoric that creates the vague of war is peace. So they just justified that what they're feeling as colonialism is just them being peaceful. Well, in the bad days, it was very, very brutally there. So they had to find a way to just justify the colonialism itself. So when you see these people who will notice and criticize elements of colonialism, but then justify humanism, they themselves are supportive of that colonialism. They just want a more soft-handed one that at least acknowledges the existence of these relationships from the past, but try and makes it as if they've been solved, sort of rhetoric. Um, Humanism looks at it like that way. They look at it as like there was bad shit that happened, like modern humanism in Britain. They look at it as like bad shit happened between us, but we did civilize these nations. Is the way that they justify it. In the past, it was of it's raw. No matter what you say, they're going to see that it's colonial. Well, just tell these people that the colonialism that they're doing and they're involved in is a good movement to bring whiteness, which is not just solely based on skin color, although it has been over the centuries. It was originally centered around heathens and those that are godly folk. Um, I mean, the English have called the Irish black. Um, the black heathens of the Isles of Ireland. That's what they've called them as pagans and all the stuff like that. So blackness is seen as uncivilized, like people that are culture a horror culture, and that humanism is Victorian humanism as well is centered around the idea of bringing them white culture. So when you hear someone like Haz say that African American people and Native American people aren't supportive of this, they're on about the progenitors of whiteism that exists within the labor aristocracy that support their bullshit, the people that will put the fucking smoke up their ass. because those people have been turned white, as Malcolm X would have put it in better words than I have. They've been like there's no way that you can just become someone who's black bourgeois upper class in the system. Like they don't accept that. Like if you're that, you are ostracized with, even as a bourgeois member. Like you're ostracized. If you're a bourgeoisie and you were to truly go for that form of culture, which couldn't exist in that form because black culture is in opposition to whiteness, and capitalism has a very hard foundation of whiteness within its system. But I'm just making a hypothetical. It would be ostracized out of it. It can't exist. And capitalists don't go for shit that will get them ostracized. That gets them in a position where they can't function. These progenitors of whiteness within the existence of the black and red aristocracy, as the natives would call them, and assimilated peoples, these people are there showboaters to turn around and tell us that the black and red people that we're listening to are wrong. Well, fuck you is what I say to them. I'm sorry. I am not speaking because I'm an authority, because I'm not. I'm just saying stuff I've been fucking told by the people who are in this struggle. I am not a fucking black man. Neither am I a native man. I am a fucking, what's it? I am some half Anglo-Saxon, half Irishman, half Breton. I'm some just mix-up who is of Anglo-Saxon culture. I am nothing to their struggle. I am not them. I am not what they do. All I am is saying that I did the one thing that needs to be done and I fucking listened. And that's not something to parade myself for because it's nothing fucking special. And they wouldn't parade me for it either because they know it's not so much special. They know that this is the reason why you'll hear a lot of African American people and Native people say they are done trying to wipe your asses and tell you what's what and fix your racist shit. It's up to us white people to tell white people what's up at this point because like, why the fuck are we reliant on this? Why the fuck have they haven't been to tell us? And why the fuck have they been being ignored? They get ignored. They just no one wants to listen to it because white people will just find some token motherfucker to tell them to tell these black people nada and they won't listen to the struggle. With the fact that the simplest thing of listening and learning isn't done and it comes from Victorian humanism, they're happy to use the colonial justifications to tell working class and lumpen proletarian black people to shut up, to tell working class and lumpen native people, fourth world people to shut up. Jewish, Irish, anyone, they'll get told to shut up because they don't fit in line with what some fucking aristocrat said and with what the emotions that are running through this white person's head. And let's mind you that it's not just some of their bad people, the assimilated folk. No, it's worse than that. They are people who are they are the historical the historical scars of torture, of abuse, of dragging them into whiteness. Because to become white, they weren't just given a free ticket up into the upper class; they were rammed into schools that were told to teach them how to be white, how to think white, how to operate white. And any way that they think otherwise, they were cast out into the lower classes, cast out or murdered. And then you were not even getting into the fucking raping and the molesting and other stuff. This is the foundations of your country, America. This is the foundation of my country, Britain. This is the foundations of colonialism, which is a part of the foundations of capitalism. Capitalism has never not been colonialist. Never, never, ever, 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 ever. Always has it been a colonial structure. And until people fucking get that, they are blind and moronic. I do not like calling people idiots. I do not like the appeal to intelligence. I find that to be an aristocratic insult. But there's nothing that deserves such a fucking insult of being called moronic than the supportative nature of an imperialist flag that these people have. And as far as I am concerned, down with the British Empire, down with the American Empire, down with the European empires, down with the Chinese Empire. Fuck what the fuck Russia's trying to do. Burn these flags and death to America KKK. I hope you guys enjoy, fucking English. I hope you guys enjoyed my rantative natures, and I hope I didn't go on too many tangents. Have a good night, day, or whatever the fuck it is in whatever part of the world you are. Peace.